All good movie reviews open on a black screen. Batman is a 1989 American superhero film based on the DC Comics character of the same name. The first installment of Warner Bros.' initial Batman film series, it was directed by Tim Burton and stars Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. The film takes place early in the title character's war and crime and depicts his conflict with the Joker, primarily drawing inspiration from the original Red Hood comic book storyline. But how does a character go from this...
Why, Robin? What comes in 12s?
Donuts!
...to this? For one, DC are clearly trying to present their heroes as darker characters when compared to everything that Marvel is doing at the moment. But primarily, it's because most of us have only ever known Batman as a dark character. Tim Burton released Batman in 1989, and this entry not only brought the character back to the mainstream, but it was also his first film appearance as the dark vigilante we know today. This idea would later be continued with Tim Burton's sequel, Batman Returns, as well as the animated series, and much later, of course, Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Of course, a lot of the credit has to go to the comics. Batman first appeared in March of 1939 in Detective Comics issue 27. The story was a noir tale of murder and corruption, including a depiction of a man stabbed and another man shot to death on the second page of the comic. The story ends with Batman knocking the villain into a pit of acid and killing him.
And just how much do they sell for, these antiques? What do collectors pay for them?
Well, take for instance the Batman #1, which everybody talks about, everybody wants. I've gotten $250 for it. It's actually going for about $200 now. $200 for Batman #1, which was spring 1940.
Then came the Comics Code Authority, a form of self-censorship in reaction to the 1950s hysteria surrounding comics as some sort of bad influence towards kids. The Comics Code Authority had to approve all comic books, providing a seal of approval to ensure the comics didn't contain violence, sexual innuendos, or other depictions and ideas deemed harmful or dangerous for kids to see. This reached its peak in the mid-60s with the Batman TV show, starring Adam West and Burt Ward as Batman and Robin respectively. It's a show that I love with all my heart and is genuinely, I think, my favourite version of the character. It's a delightful show, and the movie, which released in between series, is in my opinion the very best it has to offer. If you've ever been interested in the show or just Batman in general, I highly recommend checking out Batman the movie from 1966.
This money goes toward building better roads. We all must do our part. Good citizenship, you know.
Holy taxation!
But anyways, after the cancellation of the show, Batman comic book sales were tanking, so a last-ditch effort to revitalise the comics helped change the course of Batman forever. No, not that one. The late 1960s and early 1970s saw the rise of writer Dennis O'Neil and artist Neil Adams, throwing out all of the camp and other elements that had dominated Batman comics throughout the last couple decades. They returned Batman to his roots as a dark vigilante in stories that could be enjoyed by adult readers as well as children. The 1986 limited series The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller was met with universal praise, not only for its dark story, but also the beautiful artwork with illustrations by Miller and Klaus Janson, and colour by Lynn Varley. It's often considered to be the point where Batman returned to his more serious roots after the child-oriented times of the 50s and 60s, and while the popularity of the story clearly indicates that that is when the public perception of Batman started to change, the real hard work had been started 17 years earlier. So while the character had managed to go back to basics in the world of comics, on the silver screen he was still known for the 60s TV show, and this wasn't helped by the ongoing animated series Super Friends by Hanna-Barbera. So at this point, Batman had received a wildly popular kids TV show, and was a major part of another popular animated show. The first Superman movie from Richard Donner released in 1978, and this helped immensely with getting Batman made. It was a very different type of movie, but it was a superhero film, which was a massive critical, commercial, and cultural success.
Bad vibrations?
So after that, Warner Bros. Obviously looked next to Batman. It took years due to a variety of script changes and initial hesitation about the darker tone, but eventually Tim Burton was brought on board, and at that point production began to speed up. Anyways, I think that's enough background info for now, so without further ado, let's take a look at Tim Burton's Batman. We open on a slow intro as the camera swims around the twists and turns of a seemingly endless maze. Danny Elfman's now iconic Batman theme blasts as we move away to see the full Bat logo. We're introduced to Gotham, a city full of corruption and crime, as a family leaves the Monarch Theatre in an attempt to get home. They take a shortcut down an alley in a scene where anyone who knows anything about the Batman mythos will know where this is going. Oh. Or not, I guess. On the rooftops of Gotham, these two petty thieves count their money before being confronted by the Batman. The Bat survives this, of course, and quickly dispatches of the crooks.
What are you?
I am Batman.
I'm Batman.
Yes, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
I'm Batman! Across town, the influential men of Gotham City welcome Harvey Dent as their new district attorney. Portrayed by Billy Dee Williams of Star Wars, Dent promises to crack down on crime, a sentiment that gangster Jack Napier doesn't feel much love for. He's sleeping with his boss's girl and secretly plans to take Carl Grisham out of the equation. But he's not the only one who wants Grisham out of the way. Mayor Borg orders Dent and Commissioner Gordon, played by famed character actor Pat Hingle, to arrest the mob boss before the upcoming Gotham Bicentennial celebrations. A classic situation of a corrupt institution celebrating itself rather than trying to correct the systemic issues that exist within itself. Across the city, the thugs Batman beat up are arrested by Lieutenant Max Eckhart, who's secretly on Jack Napier's payroll, giving him information and turning a blind eye to whatever criminal endeavours the gangster pursues. Alexander Knox doesn't get along too well with the lieutenant, or his fellow reporters, including a cameo from Batman co-creator Bob Kane, but he seems to get along a lot better with his co-worker Vicky Vale. Kim Basinger was brought in last minute after more than 5 weeks of production, to replace Sean Young in the role of Vicky Vale after a horse riding incident took them out of commission for the immediate future.
I would have been able to stay on the film. I would have been in a big box office hit. I would have been able to go on to other big box office hits. I would have, and then that kind of domino effect would have occurred in my career. So that was the turning point in my career where that didn't happen.
Grisham, having learnt of Jack's betrayal, decides to betray Jack by convincing Max to betray him. Luckily though, as Jack gets ambushed by the police, who were informed via Grisham's betrayal, Bob the Goon stays by Jack's side to ensure Grisham's betrayal is unsuccessful, but Jack, having noticed Max's betrayal, betrays him with a bullet to the gut. Batman, having sensed this betrayal, betrays his code by letting the killer fall into a vat of acid, just like he does back in Detective Comics issue 27. I personally love how the Joker changes here to fit the adaptation. In the 60s, he was a clown, the Dark Knight a terrorist. In this version, a Al Capone-styled gangster. In Matt Reeves' The Batman, he's a freak, and in Suicide Squad, he's shit. The next evening, Miss Vale has dinner with Bruce Wayne in his mansion, giving Keaton a great chance to show off the more human side to this character. Elsewhere though, Jack, having survived the fall, shows off his new look before exacting his revenge on the old mob boss. Holy betrayal, Batman! After taking over the underworld of Gotham City, the Joker sends Bob the Goon on an important mission.
You are my number one guy.
I know he's a murderous criminal, but, when you look past all that, I think deep down, we all need a guy like Bob on our side. Bruce manages to witness the Joker's public debut at City Hall the next day, But this murder is but a prelude to the maniac's main plan, having spiked a variety of products across the city with a poisonous laughing virus. The casting of Jack Nicholson as this killer clown helped bring validity to the production and the role, just as Marlon Brando did with Superman. Later, at a swanky museum / restaurant, I guess? What is this place? It makes no sense as a business. Vicky Vale finds herself the lone survivor of Joker's slaughter, after becoming obsessed with the budding reporter from a glimpse he caught during the City Hall killing. An infatuation that, rumour has it, found its way into the real world, with Basinger once describing Nicholson as, quote, the most sexual individual I've ever met. Luckily, Batman arrives just in time to rescue her from the murderer's unrequited advances, and it's here that we get the first appearance of this iconic version of the Batmobile. The Joker's goons give chase straight down an alley where Tim Burton blatantly steals a joke straight from Raiders of the Lost Ark. The next day at Vale's apartment, Bruce Wayne tries to reveal his true identity to her, but things go awry when the Joker and his gang crash the party once again. But the millionaire playboy isn't going to take this lying down.
You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
That is, until Jack says something that jogs his memory.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Many years ago, when Bruce was a child, his parents left the Monarch Theatre only to be killed on Crime Alley by a couple of thugs.
Tell me, kid, you ever dance with the devil by the pale moonlight?
Bruce survives a shot to the chest using a handy tea tray and escapes the apartment, seemingly unseen, but shortly later, with the assistance of Knox and Alfred, Vale finds her way into the Batcave, where the truth is revealed to her. When Batman went into production in 1988, Robin was set to make a brief appearance. But by the time they began principal photography, the filmmakers felt that the relationship between Batman and Robin wasn't essential to the story, and so the script changes to eliminate the boy wonder altogether. Back in central Gotham, the Joker's final plan comes together at the Gotham Bicentennial celebration, having lured thousands of citizens there with the promise of free money, and a brand new song by Prince, that I can't really play due to copyright reasons, but I'm a bit of a rebel, so here's a brief clip. The Joker unleashes his poisonous gas amongst the crowd, but Knox, being the absolute legend that he is, leaps into action, acting like it's COVID-89 and sending the gas-filled balloon away from the innocents, though he does end up accidentally getting thrown in some garbage by Vicky Vale for this. Knox was originally meant to die in the first draft that actor Robert Wuhl read, but Tim Burton and the rest of the crew enjoyed him so much on set that the ending was changed so that he survived.
My character died at the end of the draft. I was supposed to die. And it was going so well, they said, okay, we're going to have him live. And I thought, wow, that's pretty good now. I can see it. I see Batman 2, the annuity coming up here, right? And as luck has it, they didn't use me in Batman 2. My character just kind of disappeared from the whole thing.
Though it should be noted that, technically, Wuhl did get to reprise his role during the CW Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover from 2019. Using his special bat scissors, the poisonous balloons are taken away, which makes Jack mad enough that he executes Bob the Goon with his own gun. You know what? Bob deserved better. Using his long pistol, overcompensating, the Batwing gets shot down, crashing into this gothic Notre Dame-level church. This is one of the many sequences which really highlight the impressive model work throughout the film. The level of detail is super high and, I think, has far more charm than CGI ever can. A kidnapped Vale is escorted to the top of the bell tower with the Batman in hot pursuit. Somehow a bunch of Joker's thugs have teleported to the top as well, but our hero has no issue dealing with them all, and killing pretty much every single one.
Excuse me. Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
I've got to say, I understand why people have a problem with Jack being the one to have killed Bruce's parents, but I think it works super well here. Not only to make the film work better as a standalone piece if it wasn't to get a sequel, but the fact that in this version, both Batman and the Joker created each other. During his attempt to escape, Joker gets his foot attached to a statue of the devil, which ultimately pulls him down from the helicopter's ladder to his doom. And just like that, the Joker is killed by the devil in the pale moonlight. With the Joker dead, the mayor, commissioner, and DA Harvey Dent make an announcement to the people of Gotham. Billy Dee Williams signed on for the role under the belief that he'd get to play Two-Face in a future installment. Unfortunately, after Burton left the series and Schumacher took over, his role was recast with Tommy Lee Jones in the critically maligned Batman Forever. Though, just like Robert Wuhl, Billy Dee Williams did get to reprise the role eventually, albeit as an animated Lego figure rather than in live action. The film ends as the bat signal is revealed, with Keaton's Batman standing guard over the rooftops of Gotham. So, how does the most expensive movie ever at the time of its release hold up today? Really fucking well. Batman is a gorgeous looking film, full of giant sets and tons of practical effects. A killer soundtrack provided both by Danny Elfman and Prince helps to heighten the emotions the film is attempting to provoke. Michael Keaton is at his best here when tackling the role of Bruce Wayne, who manages to be both likeable and charming, yet socially stilted as you'd expect of someone who dresses up as a bat every night. His Batman ends up feeling a little stiff, though that's likely due to the physically stiff costume, which allowed very little flexibility. Though it does look pretty cool. Nicholson kills it as this 80s gangster version of the Joker, and while I'm not particularly a fan of Basinger's Vicky Vale, the cocky charm that Knox brings to the story helps to even it out for me. Whoa! It's far from subtle and certainly feels less realistic than the recent Dark Knight trilogy and Matt Reeves' The Batman. But, while I love both of those later entries, the dark comedy of Tim Burton's version helped to transition the character from childhood TV show to adult cinematic events. Ultimately, it's a great time, so if you're a Batman fan of basically any era, you owe it to yourself to go and check this out.
Wouldn't hit a guy with glasses on, would you? Huh?
In the next episode, I'll be taking a look at the period piece Vita and Virginia, a movie by director Chanya Button, which charts the real-life relationship between two famous authors, Vita Sackville West and Virginia Woolf. This film, starring Gemma Arterton and Elizabeth Debicki, is a poignant and understated piece about love, mental health, and toxic relationships. You can use the link in the description below to find out where to watch it before I cover it next week here on the channel. But until then, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to drop the video a like and, of course, subscribe so you never miss an episode. I hope you have a beautiful day and an even brighter tomorrow. See ya.